my friends, it is I, Alphinius Goo, and I am here in Gooey Studios with Alexander in the backstage. Ha! And Camera Mandy behind the camera. Say hello, Camera Mandy.
Hello.
Say hello, Alexander, even though no one can hear you. He did. I saw him say it. That's very good, Alexander. It is good to see you all this morning. We are going right into the show. The first thing we're going to do is to talk about some cool Facebook things that were on there. The next thing we're going to do is to talk about some interesting lore and dialogue and stuff. And then at the end, we're going to meet Lord Kalnovic. Yes, that is what we are going to do. So, Camera Mandy, would you like to begin the deal, if you will?
Indeed, I would. So, we are starting with some stuff from Facebook, as we normally do.
Camera Mandy.
And this was a beautiful piece of art that Elle altered to be even better.
So Elle works for us, does she not?
Yes.
Yeah, we'll have to see about that on Monday.
I think that it is marvelous, and I will fight for Elle.
So this is Alphinius Goo, is that correct? This is who this is?
Yes, indeed.
Alphinius Goo. Yes, Elle, marvelous. Yes, well done. And then our friend Nate did this. Yes, Nate turned him into Orc-Phineas, right? That's what happened here. So this was a little out of control, but it was kind of funny. I was laughing a little bit, and we do enjoy this craziness that happens on Facebook. It's quite marvelous.
I actually hear there's going to be like a meme contest coming up that has to do with your art.
I didn't hear about
and altering your was that a surprise?
Is some new thing that is being planned by the two sisters of death, the Wicked Sisters.
I like that. The two sisters. I'll text Elle. We are now the two sisters of death. And now we have Abby, who's come to join our ranks.
That's what I'm saying. I'm not counting you as a sister of death. I'm counting Abby and Elle as the sister of death.
I see. Abby and Elle are the sisters of death, and I am.
You're just
Camera Mandy, yeah, exactly. Okay, we have Corey who did a marvelous pumpkin.
So I got us a question now. At first, I thought this was Lokebut, but a lot of people have said it looks like Myron the Ugly Troll. So I don't know.
That does kind of look like Myron the Ugly Troll.
It does look like Myron the Ugly Troll. You know, it's very nice, wonderful little Halloween image, right? It's marvelous. And are we doing this this costume thing tomorrow? Are we asking folks to put up their costumes?
I know I got a message from Geeky Hoodie this morning with an awesome costume.
Are you going to put it up that we can see it?
I mean, I can pull up the chat. Just give me a sec.
Let's show it.
All right, just give me.
I saw that picture as well. He's a bad Santa, right? He's the.
All right, here I can pull this up over here. Just give me a quick second. Hold on.
Yeah, you got this, Camera Mandy. Anyway, my friends, look at this. Check this out.
So oh my goodness! Hold on, everything's gone wrong. This is what happens when we try to do things on the fly.
Look at that! It looks great. Geeky Hoodie.
Sorry, I have like 4 screens here. I'm trying to get this across. This is just nonsense.
You had it right. It was
there we go. There he is.
Very good. Bad Santa.
Yes.
He's a cigar. Yes, that's. Actually, it kind of looks like Slasher Santa to me.
He looks like it. It's like
that's what I was. That's what was in my mind is the murderous Santa.
The clown. Yes. Okay, and then back to our talking. Oh, I lost them. See, this is what happens when we try and do things live. Okay, so we're back to Corey here.
Back to Corey.
Okay,
you're doing great, Cameraman.
Oh, thank you. Everyone's being so nice to me.
You're doing great.
I'm
not sure that you being flazzled is not a very entertaining thing. Yes. There's little what's his name?
Goobert.
Yeah, little Goobert. Yes.
Yes. Guys, the thing is that we tried to go very big on this episode. So, sometimes there's a saying, keep it simple, stupid.
No, listen, I want to tell you, I actually, Alexander knows this and Camera Mandy knows this, that I stayed up most of the night because I wanted to play with the boys and spend some time with the little tiny grandbaby. And I stayed up most of the night working on this slideshow and the things that we're going to show today, because I think that this lore is so rich, and what happened as we sort of went through the process, of throwing down, this map and saying, here's this Vile Desolation, it's got Undead in there. And sort of, we'll talk about this more when we get with Alexander, but I really love the lore of the Vile Desolation. And I think it's really important for you in your games to be able to bring that to your players, because I think they're going to really enjoy it. Anyway, this is Goobert. Tell me about Goobert here, Camera Mandy. What is Goobert
This little
doing?
icon is something that Elle made a while ago, and he is dressed up for Halloween.
So listen, I'm going to take a drink from this bottle. I know you hate that, but it's delicious.
Awesome.
It's marvelous. Thank you for giving me that. All right. So we've got another one. Or is this the last one?
I think this is the last one here.
Luke.
So here's the deal: is we love our community, and Luke put out a post asking if we had a philosophy mission statement etc., like written up. And we do. It comes in the chapter 1, The Darkest Dream, but we also have the digital download on gooeycube.com. And the reason why I wanted to highlight this post here today was because I think that it's awesome to show that you could just ask a question in the Gooey Game Masters and Enlightenment or the Discord, and our community members will be awesome about getting back to you as quickly as possible. We will also respond, but sometimes it takes a little bit longer. But yeah, please, like if you ever have a question, if you ever have like just anything that you want to post that's related to not even just Gooey Cube, but you know, the game that we all love, we love to hear it. So
I really, as I've said many, many times, I love what goes on in the den. I love what goes on in the Discord. We're working on making the Discord a little more easy to use with a little less channels. And I happened to pop in last week at the writers channel, and there was a wonderful group of folks there, probably 15 or 16. And then this morning there was 8 or 9 or 10 or something like that. So it's definitely growing. And so if you're interested in being a writer, if it's something that you want to do, if you want to do more than just maybe contributor submissions and try to maybe spend time helping with some of the larger projects and those kinds of things, I would highly recommend you go there. Kaya and Jens and James bring a lot of wonderful stuff to the table. And as I've said, my only regret about the stream is that I really can't attend that like I would like to on more consistent basis. Anyway, all right, Camera Mandy, are we ready yet?
Yes. So next up, I did not get the God done or the God done. I know, I'm sorry, but like you have to understand, I was going to do it, but then you needed your water bottle.
Oh, it was the water bottle's fault. Yes, no, actually, you were getting the password from the conference.
Well, that too. It was just a mess, and so we'll just go straight to it.
No, I'm going to say it. So this is very important. The God that we were going to talk about today is Nocreos. And the reason why we are talking about Nocreos is because he is the Lord of the Undead. And the Lord of the Undead plays big into this whole thing that's going on in the Vile Desolation. And that is all I'm going to say about that till we get on old Alexander here to talk about this. So let me tell you. So here's what happens, right? So we started down the path of the Westford. And there was a number of different territories and regions that had been defined and sort of had, a decent foundation of lore and interest, but there was these marvelous contributors, right, who wanted to participate in them. And they took that beginning of lore and they began to slowly add their own spice to it, right, and make it better and make it more interesting and add things that we wouldn't have come up with if we were doing it by ourselves, which was marvelous, right? And so all of a sudden, you look at the Vile Desolation, right? And it wasn't just Alexander. I mean, Marvelous Carrie helped us with this, and AJ helped with some things, and it's just this community is amazing. But I do want to give Alexander the props because he was sort of leading the charge, as it were, right? So it really is quite an amazing section of the Westford book. And if you have not had a chance to read it, I suggest you do because it's a good tale. Anyway, are we ready yet, Cameraman D?
Yes. So
Alexander.
Hold on. I actually have a clip that I'm going to play that so I put this together this morning.
This is why everything else is kind of screwed up.
Yes. And so so originally we were going to do a video, and I'm still going to do it. This has inspired me to get back into it. It's called Voices of Zyathé. And a bunch of our contributors had submitted clips of their voices with their characters. I started on the project, and then it was during the very busy time, and I did not get to finish the project. And this was like at the beginning of the year. So shame on me. I'm so sorry, guys. But with that said, I did get Alexander's clip edited this morning so that way we could hear a little of his character. And
before we do that, though, I forgot to do this. Does everybody see a Smash Case painted Mark's amazing thing that Harry helped put? There's a whole lot of people who touched this little Gooey Cube, but it is now gracing the desk, right? So that is. I don't know if stuff keeps coming in, Cameron, you're going to have no more room on the desk. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, yeah. We'll have to get a bigger studio.
A bigger studio. Hopefully one with air conditioning.
Yes, indeed. Okay, so we're going to show the clip, and when we come back, hopefully Alexander will be on. So here we go.
Ah, another newcomer, stricken with the cruel curse of mortality. Fear not what you see around you, for while undead, the inhabitants of my vile desolation are the epitome of civility. Soon you shall see the truth, be free of the fate the gods have forced upon you, and ascend to a greater state of being. Welcome to Zyathé.
Yeah, I think I do, don't I?
Hello.
Hi, how's it going?
Good. We are doing a quick audio test. This is what we were supposed to do this morning. Can you hear Alexander?
Alexander, talk to me.
Can you hear me, Kim?
I can't because you haven't let me in yet, Cameramandy.
Okay, hold on. Well, you should be able to hear behind the scenes because you're here, but behind the scenes. Try turning up the audio.
Enter studio. Now I'm in.
Okay, can you hear
Can you hear me,
Alexander?
Alexander, you
Can you
beautiful
hear me?
man, you.
Kim,
hear
can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay.
Yes, I
Excellent.
can.
We're in business. Alexander, thank you for hanging out with us today.
Of course, it's my pleasure.
So I roped him into. He's going to be here next week too, Cameramandy. It's a two-parter. It has to be.
Oh, that's fine. I got distracted because Carrie offered a bit of feedback on that clip. She said that Alexander recorded that clip 12 times before he was happy with it.
Yeah, that is true. Well, I also had a very strict time limit to get it in. It had to be
Yes,
like
it was under 30
between
seconds.
22 and 23 seconds long. So I that was the main thing. That's why he talks so fast in it.
But we are pretty excited, right, Alexander? Because our dear Carrie is about to come out here and be with us. Yes.
Yes. That'll soon be resolved, and she'll be in the U.S. So it's
That is
exciting.
wonderful. All right. So we are here today to talk about this Vile Desolation. And we're
Oh,
excited.
before we get started, I'm going to start the music.
Oh, you're going to
Yes. And so I want to get an audio check on the music to make sure you guys can hear it. It's not too loud or not too quiet. Now, this music was brought to us by Martin Schroer. I think I got that right. He's from Germany, and I have a
Yes.
slide to show at the end. And he does marvelous soundscapes. He has a website, d20sounds.com, and I'll show you all of his information at the end. But he is absolutely spectacular.
Yeah, and he's been posting in the den. He's made some nice stuff, and he says people can just use it if they want to, which is marvelous.
So, guys, let me know how this audio is sounding and if you can hear the music or if it's too quiet. It might be a little quiet. Let me boost it up a little bit.
We don't get to hear it at all, Alexander. It's hard to be in the studio.
I know.
Can you guys hear the music? I'm not getting responses back. This was all supposed to be audio tested ahead of time, but Alphinius got here 5 minutes before the show
it's
started.
Alphinius.
Well, we got to blame someone, right?
Okay, I'm going to boost it up just a hair. How about now?
Well, I can actually hear a little bit of it, which is kind of
Uh-huh.
nice.
Boost it up more.
Ooh,
How's that sound, guys?
I can hear that.
yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That might be a little hot.
Yeah, that might be a
All
little.
right, we're getting the audio test. Okay, you guys keep talking while
I
I
think you're good. Put it right there.
All right,
Okay, sounds
sounds
good.
good.
Okay.
I'm going to razz Cameramandy about this show for months.
We tried going really big, guys. Keep it simple, stupid. That's the one thing I learned in college.
All right. So, Alexander, it is marvelous to see you, my friend. And it's been a bit since Gen Con. And,
It has.
And it was a wonderful time. So, I want to ask you a couple questions before we dive into this this Vile Desolation. Okay?
Of course,
So,
yeah.
Cameramandy, don't be kicking it, right? Just keep yourself under control.
Well, the music is going to go up and down, so I can't control it.
No, I meant don't go into the Vile Desolation.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm just putting up the original screen.
All right, marvelous. So, Alexander, I remember you talking to me early, and you said, I'd really like to help with the Vile Desolation. I remember that.
Oh yeah. So what I did is I pitched you this idea because we were working on our own setting, and I had this idea of what happens to undead after the necromancers are no longer using them. When their necromancer master dies, and you just kind of have undead left over. So I wondered, what
Leftover
happens
undead.
exactly, like what happens to the
You have them for
undead
breakfast.
over thousands of years, when they're wandering around. So I had this idea of them living deep underground in these giant necropolises, where they kind of formed their own society. And I was telling Alphinius about this, and he's like, well, we have the Vile Desolation, and we got to talking about that. And then I was like, well, I really like this, and here's what I would do with it. And after that, he asked me if I'd be interested in telling him more about it, and then eventually writing some about it.
Well, we had this idea about a playable race for the undead, and then that Alexander helped add to that, and of course there's locations that were out there, and we sort of started talking about what is going to happen here or there, and then of course Carrie did this whole thing with the undead Feyari, so we got more to talk about in part 2. So, Alexander, it is a little weird hearing my own voice back and forth, like on a second of delay. It's kind of weird, but I think I can handle it. So tell me, Alexander, what is your favorite part in the entire Westford book in the Vile Desolation section?
So in the Vile Desolation section, well, it's a tie. It's a tie between the creation story of the Vile Desolation and what makes it, what keeps the dead from truly resting there, and between, of course, you know where it's going. The library that they have created, where they find these primary sources by resurrecting the dead that have seen ancient events and receiving their accounts of them.
Yes, and as long as that undead can come back with intelligence rather than just savagery, they can tap them, right?
Exactly.
And kind of use them as living lore, right?
And
Or
well,
unliving lore.
when they have their when they have a bit of savagery to them, they generally will just take the head. That's really all they need to extract the information. You know,
Yeah,
they
so
don't
all
really
these
need their
heads are
lungs to
sitting
speak.
all over the place down there, right? Is that the
Yeah, exactly. Where you'd have books, you have kind of cubbies for heads, and some of them are just skulls. And you know, you take out the skull, you set it on the table, and you ask it some questions.
It has no vocal cords.
Well, hey, undead don't need vocal cords to talk, man. I'm just saying they don't need to breathe.
It is magic.
It is.
All right. So we're actually decided. I decided because I think it's important to do this in 2 parts, and I sprung that on Alexander this morning. So the reason I want to do it in 2 parts is because the lore of this marvelous locality is pivotal to the entirety of what's going on there and what it means to your campaigns and the things that are going to happen in the future. So go ahead, cameraman. You can take us to the next slide. And Alexander, you're just going to pop in and I'm going to pop back and we'll be quiet about it. And,
Sounds good.
you know, I mean, I know you're never at a loss of words and I certainly am not.
Exactly.
So cameraman has the map of the Vile Desolation. And for those of you who saw the stream or I don't know, 3 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, where we talked about the Boonderland, which is the northern borderland of the Republic, we're gonna just touch on that for a moment. So, Camera Mandy, if you could if you want to zoom in a little bit on that Silvershine River. And then we can go, and you don't have to.
You're over here?
No, yeah, right down. You're doing great. Well done. Yes. So this is the area of the Republic that is defended substantially, originally from Magdranok, but now it is being done because of the undead. All right, and there are. Go ahead, cameraman. Take us to the next one. Yes. And there are keeps along the border, right? Where soldiers and mercenaries and certain groups are sequestered. And it's their job to stop the undead from crossing the river. But Alexander, you and I have had a number of chats about this, haven't we? What if they all crossed the river instead of just a few?
and don't forget, of course, this is your place to stick your criminals who you don't necessarily want to execute, your outcasts, political prisoners. You send them to go serve on the banks of the Silvershine.
Absolutely, a little nod to a famous adventure that was made long ago, and a little nod to a certain set of books that talked about a place called the Wall. Yes, so I give him a little nod. But I agree with you, Alexander. Can you imagine how wonderful to go to these keeps, be assigned there, and having? I mean, goodness gracious, yes.
Oh, of course, and to have to range north of the river, or and see what happens when your comrades die, even in their bunks, and what you have to do.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's
because
quite,
it's spreading, right?
Yes, even as far south as the keeps along the Silvershine, they have to burn their dead because they come back.
Yes, that is a great tale. And then, Alexander, I got to ask about this too, because there are seemingly a little more incursions that are happening in recent times. Yes, it seems like a little more is happening.
Oh yes, of course. Well, the incursions that come towards the Republic from the Vile Desolation are not necessarily constant, but they're more probative. They're always kind of testing the defense, and it seems that they have grown in number. And this is kind of in correlation with the growth of the the population of the Vile Desolation itself. And though they do seem to be even more focused now, really getting a true idea of the defenses that the Republic have set up.
Yes, and they're not idle either, right? So don't think that the Republic is just sitting there with their on their hands, so to speak, right? But there is a sizable contingent within the Republic who probably believe that the Vile Desolation is the greater threat, right, Alexander?
Oh yes, at least in the long term. If it probably not the most immediate threat, but definitely the true one that will be their downfall if any of these groups are.
Indeed. All right, let us look at the next slide here, cameraman. Yes, so this is the river, right? And we want to give you this feel because it's big, right? It is wide, but there are places where it can be forded, and there are a few places where it runs fast. So it is not a fully navigable river, but all of the places that used to cross it are now gone. They have dug out the fords, they have taken down the bridges, right, Alexander? They've done everything they can.
They do all they can to force the undead to march along the bottom of the river, and come up the other side. You won't believe how many skeletons and walkers are stuck in the mud of the Silvershine, just waiting for you to slip down and be pulled down to your doom.
And grab your leg.
Grab your leg and pull you down. No, it's boats that the Republic has to use to cross it. And even that's treacherous.
Yeah. No skinny dipping in the Silvershine.
No, not at all. And there are fearful undead that live within the river itself as well.
Yes.
It's quite a dangerous place.
So anyway, my friends, you think about this, right? This is such a wonderful place for adventure, right? Alexander already touched on the cutthroats and surly individuals that you might run into in the keeps, and how that whole thing could play into an adventure for your players. But it's even more than that, because we are working on this marvelous adventure with John called The Dead and Fallow. And this adventure will actually take your players across the river. But there is a tale still in the telling. We shall see. All right, camera ready, let's move on. So, Alexander, tell us a little bit about the Vile Desolation as it looks now, as it feels now, and give us a little of your perspective, if you will.
So, the Vile Desolation is a relatively it's kind of a collection of very disparate areas and groups. You have different types of undead, and they are forced into different areas naturally. But the surface, the geography of the of the place is different as well. You have marshes in the north. You have some very thick forest on either side of the area. You have some plains that were once very verdant for growth, and you have a sort of almost like a natural sort of cesspit that is formed near the center as well. It's a relatively flat land that is, you don't see many mountains. Only in the far eastern part of the Vile Desolation do we really see the mountains. But it is a land that you could walk through and see ruins pretty much everywhere you go. It was once very populated, and now it is it's still populated, just by different people, by different a different sort of people. And it's it is definitely has that image of a once war-torn place that has kind of been reconstructed.
So, Alexander, what is this phenomenon that it's overcast a lot and misty and all of that in many areas?
There are some tales that we leave in the telling. It's not, it's not certain if it's the magic that's there or if it's the natural weather of the area, the changing climate. or the direct intervention of Kalmavik or his other emissaries, but it is very rarely sunny in the Vile Desolation. It is constantly overcast and cloudy, and this is of great benefit to the undead, many of them being sensitive to direct sunlight.
Yes,
but
and
it is-
Carrie asked the question right there, which is, we know the answer. Do you want to answer it? Do you want me to?
Yes, if things that die undead, what happens to plants, trees, fungi, etc.? Well, there are some undead as well of those. I mean, you'll see undead treants, you'll see other things as that, but even maybe some undead animals. Though
Yes.
most of those that are that die, they are consumed. I don't think we have undead wheat, though. For example,
No.
I don't think you're gonna see the undead
Undead
undead wheat
tomatoes.
stalks. Yeah, exactly. We just call those rotten. But
Well done, Alexander. Well played.
I
All
think
right. So this image kind of gives you some
Sorry, next
feel.
question was, are there vampires?
Well, we'll have to see. I don't. Should we tell that? We shouldn't tell that yet.
we'll get
Alexander.
there. We'll
Yeah,
we'll get
I
to.
promise
we'll get
we
to
will
be
get
answered
there.
later.
But there is a great tale of a vampire in particular, and there are probably a few others. Yes.
Mhm.
All right. Let us continue. So when you think of the landscape, Alexander said there's not a lot of mountains, and that's true, but there are some hillocks and different things of that kind of feel. Definitely no big mountains, though. So you might come to some hills here and there, and then certainly in the east when you get close to the Worm's Rest Mountains. Yes, there's a lot of bumps there, right? All right, cameraman, let's keep going. And Alexander, so we talked about this sort of around it, but we didn't talk about it specifically. There are a lot of undead that just walk around, right? They're not under the control of anyone. They just
yes.
kind of cruise. Go ahead, tell us about that.
Many people die within the Vile Desolation. There is benefit to crossing it still, and even in this day, and those who choose to do so without going through the proper channels often find themselves residents of the Vile Desolation, shall we say. They are now permanent residents of the Vile Desolation. And many of these undead who are not created within a controlled, setting, within one of the cities or within one of these temples of ascension, shall we call them, they are left to wander, and given time, the undead will kind of collect these. They will herd these, mindless undead and use them for their purposes. But you are
it's
at
like
your own
herding
risk.
cats, but it's herding walkers, right?
They're a little easier to herd than cats, but yes.
Hey, so Harry put up a question, which is an excellent question. And Harry, he says, does anything grow there? Is it all blighted? And what the tale we're going to tell today is going to help you to understand the somewhat alien landscape that is there, but yet it is all too familiar. And so it is not truly blighted at all. It has its own sort of environment, its own ecology, and that goes directly to the lore. So, Harry, we're excited to talk about this. And Harry, my friend, I sent you an email. Very important. Yes, it is an excellent eel.
There was another question about if people willingly become undead, and we will definitely. There has definitely been exploration of that. We will get to that.
Yeah, there's some great tales about that. Yes, Alexander.
Oh yes, there are. That features prominently in this section.
Yes. Oh my goodness, Jim. Goodness gracious, that's a heck of a question. My response to Alphinius mentioned.
Oh, it's just a comment.
Oh, it's just a comment. Okay, good. That's a long question. Short questions for the old man. All right, cameraman, let us move forward.
Ooh.
So we get to show a couple monsters right now, yes, and these are from our contributors. So these are called Carrion Haunts. And Jeb submitted these, and they are quite marvelous and interesting, and I cannot wait to, when we do Monstrica next year, to have these feature within the tome, and what they do, and how they abide, and how dangerous they are.
I'm just going to put this out there. This is the scariest monster I've ever seen. This art, oh my god, I have goosebumps right now. I'm not even kidding. Like, this came on and I went, ooh. So
yeah, I'm excited about these, and I don't think we've ever showed them before, and I don't know if Jeb even is on the stream, but yeah, what a marvelous monster.
I mean, this is the kind of monster that like you have big scary monsters, but this is the kind of monster I think that would just creep out your players because it's not unrealistic to what you kind of see on the side of the street sometimes.
Yes, well, and also if you look at them, you realize that perhaps there are undead animals in this territory, right, Alexander?
There are, yeah.
Carrie says, "Yes, these are my familiars."
Oh yes. So we put this up for Jan. This was his submission. It is grotesque. And Alexander, I'm going to let you talk about it because Jan and you are such good friends, and we wanted to make his day a little bit with this. And it was Carrie who suggested. Well done, Carrie. Go ahead.
This is a fantastic monster. It is a swarm of zombie limbs, zombie parts. So it is just the leftover parts of zombies, and their separated limbs have formed this kind of conglomeration of groping and writhing body parts that devour everything that is near them. They are truly one of the most terrifying things to face when you enter the Vile Desolation or find them in a charnel pit.
And they are sort of
dungeons.
organically created, right? I
Yes.
believe that's how I understand that. Yes.
They're one of so within the Vile Desolation, many of the more unique types of undead come about naturally. Now, some of these are
I would call it
precipitated.
unnaturally.
Well, yes. I mean, it's naturally for there, but they are sort of precipitated in areas like the fetid pits.
Yes.
And there are some, many of these undead they have studied the creation of, but this one in particular is best generated within the fetid pits, where many limbs are tossed together, and even undead of this caliber can come about as well when zombies get sort of tangled up and stuck together.
Yes, and this goes back to the lore of why all these things keep coming back. So that's why we're excited to talk about this today.
Mm-hmm.
And definitely don't throw that thing at your first level character.
No, they'll be joining it.
Yeah, that's right. They'll be a part. Yes. Come be a part of us.
Exactly.
Well done, Jan. All right. So this is part 2. And this is the lore of the dead, and I felt it very important to have Alexander and I talk about this morning, because it goes so much to the core of the Vile Desolation and how all of this is occurring and why all this is occurring. So you aren't just having to tell your players, oh, they just rise of their own accord, it just happens, right? There's actually good mythology behind it, right? Alexander, you agree, right? This is this is something
well,
special.
I mean, I do think of course. I mean, I did come up with the idea for it, so I think it's rather good.
Well, it is quite marvelous, and I'm excited to bring it to you all today. All right. So let us go forward. So in the Ventenium Alanax, which is the chronicles of the creation and the lore of ancient days, it tells us about the creation of the life world and the Eterniverse by Avova. It tells us of how the 4 sparks of corruption became the 4 lords of corruption, and how as millennia passed, they began to gain power and siphon power from Avova as he slept. And then it came down to the time when they would reveal themselves. And when they revealed themselves, this also precipitated the Gods' War. And the Gods' War was a most fearsome and fearful and horrible time. Battles waged in the plains, battles waged on Zyathé, and many, many died. Many of the servants of the gods, and even some of the gods themselves. All right, cameraman, let us move forward. So Anacria, who is the leader of the four lords of corruption, beheld the life world. And this was something that they had never seen, even though they had been looking throughout the Eterniverse. And so the four lords came and believed that this would be their crown jewel, if you will, right, Alexander? They were going to come and corrupt it. Yes? Go ahead, say something.
Yes, they would turn it from what it once was into a twisted vision, turning everything ill.
Yes. That's a nice image, isn't it, cameraman?
It is.
I photoshopped that at 3 a.m.
Oh, you did this?
Yeah. Oh, not all of it. I took the image, but I did a little bit of work with it.
Wow, I did not know you had it. Wow.
I didn't do that much. Goodness gracious.
Well, I don't know. I'm so impressed. I'm telling you right now, I am so impressed. So.
Let us keep going. Yes. So the war in the plains, in the heavens and in the plains and everywhere else began. And the gods came forth, right? She already been shown, yes? And the gods came forth and they fought with each other, right? And they contested, right? And they were destroying many things. They created these massive machinations of destruction that tore through various planar realms, that broke the surface of Zyathé, right? Keep going, cameraman. Let's look at another one. Yes. And the hosts came forward of the legions of the servants of the gods, yes, and they made war upon each other, and many of them fell, yes. Continue, cameraman. Mm-hmm. How am I doing, Alexander?
You're doing well.
And the gods like Malathuk came forth as well and battled with the good gods and the gods of neutrality, and power raged everywhere. Keep going, Cameramandy. Go, Cameramandy. Yes. And the servants of good and neutrality met them, and they battled. But something happened. Powers of the gods of evil were enhanced. They were stronger than they should ever have been. And this was because the lords of corruption were feeding them. Yes, and for the first time, gods died. Yes, continue, cameramandy. Glastria, yes, she battled in the moors outside of where Verdestia is now, and much carnage. Keep going, cameraman. Oh, Nocreus, tell us of him. Tell us more of him, Alexander. Go.
He is
put on your best
the
game master
patron,
voice.
the patron of the dead, of the undead, rather, a mortal enemy of Malathuk. He is, his arch rival, as he brings back those who have fallen, and is believed by many to be the patron of all undead. However, our pale prince Kalmovic might have something to say about that.
Yes, we got a tale to tell about that. Don't we
will.
All right, keep going. So this is Endriana. No, oh, sorry.
I skipped one. That was my bad.
All right, we'll just stay with Endriana. We are fine. Although you know what? You got to show this image. This is magnificent, right? Here is a god slaying another god. And I had a tale around it, but I'm not going to tell it. But is that
what?
Just it is fine.
It is a god slaying another god, and there's a tale, but I'm just not going to tell you guys.
I'll tell it another time. The time is going. We got a lot to show. But is that not magnificent? Yes.
Oh wow.
So this is Endriana, who was the first goddess of life. Yes, Alexander?
Yes, the first goddess of life.
Because she was one of the 8 gods that perhaps had something horrible happen to her in this god's war. Endriana was powerful in the ways of life. She could even resurrect herself if she were to perish. And she was able to help many of the gods of good and neutrality who were grievously wounded or even slain. And so Flamerish, the god of rot and decay, determined that she must die as part of the god's war. And so using deception and a promise of peace. Go ahead, Cameramendi. Yes, using deception and the promise of peace, this vile god of rot lured Marvelous and Brianna to a location upon Zyathé, which is indeed the Vile Desolation. Yes, today, it was just a verdant plain. There, go ahead, Cameramendi. He slew Andriana, taking her head, taking her heart, burying her body there. Go ahead, Alexander, dance a little bit.
Yes, and when we speak of bodies and gods, it is it might be a bit misleading. It is her divinity that we speak of. Truly, her
Yes.
power is what seeped into this land. But when touching a being so foul as Flamarish, there is nothing that escapes entirely untainted and unchanged. It is, and it is not just murder that he conducted here. It was destruction, absolute torture, then death and destruction. Her divinity was ripped apart and truly corrupted by his touch. Now, not corrupted in the way of the Lords of Corruption,
But they were
truly
feeding
changed.
them. Yes, they
It's
were.
true, yes.
They were
His,
touching them, and
it was
so
the
all
power
of
from
this,
them
yes.
that allowed him to do this terrible thing and truly,
Yes.
pervert her divinity.
And so now this essence, perverted, twisted, warped, still remains to this day. And now you begin to understand what is happening within the Vile Desolation.
And that is
But-
why
Yeah, go ahead,
no one
Alexander.
who dies remains dead within the Vile Desolation.
Indeed.
They do not rest.
And there is a tale that goes along this with this that we will not tell today. But
So-
why is she active in such recent times versus the many, many, many millennia since the gods
Well,
were? Yes.
Saying
Don't
she is
tell
active.
not, Alexander.
I know,
We're
but
gonna do
I'm
that again.
saying she is active. More of her power has grown.
Yes, what is
Yes.
why? Why in these
Well,
recent
it's a
times
tale in the
versus
telling.
thousands of years ago, right? Why?
Why is she grown in power? Yes. Well, why has her power begin to manifest more greatly, shall we say?
Yes.
Since she is quite gone. But yes.
We will tell the tale of that at another time.
Hopefully in part 2 next week, because
No.
I want to know. So listen,
there is a prophecy, and I believe that it is in chapter 1 from the prophet Budno that might have a little hint as to what is coming. Yes, Alexander?
Indeed. And to answer the question there, no, she was not able to taint him. He was far more powerful at that point, and
Indeed.
well, he in fact killed her and destroyed her. That's why she was tainted.
Now the four lords revealed themselves and took back the power that they had given to the evil gods. And then they began to corrupt, warp, and twist everything. And that was when Avova awoke from his slumber. But that is another tale for another time. Let us continue on, Cameramendi.
I have to,
Yes.
I would say the chat is hot in terms of wanting a book with all the art for all the gods. How in depth does the Western Estia book go into all of this?
It more breathes into it a little bit rather than sort of bringing the depth of it, which hopefully, if everything works out, the Cyclopedia Religica will touch on some of these myths when we work on that next year.
I am just putting this out there. I would like to read the battles. If there's anyone out there who likes to write epic battles, that's my favorite thing. So if
There is a little tale
Uh-huh.
of this in Alexander. Is it chapter 2 or is it chapter 1? The Legend of Fool's Day. I believe it's chapter 1.
Yes, I think so.
Yes,
Yes, chapter
so you
1.
can read a little bit about this, at least the aftermath of it in that chapter. So this is the general area where Flamarish left her remains, if you will. And the sun rose after the end of the Gods' War. All right. Let's go.
I went to the next one.
Next one after this.
Oh, okay.
So now we must advance because part of this whole thing rests upon the 10 Years' War. And Alexander, you can talk about the 10 Years' War. Go
I
ahead.
can.
I'll shut up for a minute and you
The
go.
10 Years' War was a really brutal war that kind of was about the invasion of the Rocanoids from Nordruka, and they came down and took Kalanta by force. And despite the pleas for assistance, it took quite some time to really assemble and for the Republic to form together and present a fighting force. But finally, they did come together and stop the unrelenting advance of the Arachnoids towards the south of West Verdestia. And it was actually here in what is now called the Vile Desolation where the two armies clashed. And over the span of this war, hundreds of thousands of soldiers died in this fight. It was truly a stalemate where neither one could properly gain ground. And there were increasingly frightful effects that were happening as the war continued. They started noticing undead here and there. And that's when it wasn't long until truly all of them started to rise as undead. And at the head of them, presenting himself, was the Lich Lord Kalnavik, claiming ownership of the rising of the undead and claiming leadership of what he defined as the Vile Desolation, and drove both armies out.
Yes, so cameraman, go to the next slide. So the Vile Desolation marks its borders between the Ashclot River in the north and the Silvershine River in the south. And both the Arachnoids and the Republic have significant defenses along those two rivers. And what Alexander said is exactly right. These undead are there, and they are not just making trouble for the Republic, they are also making the same trouble for Magdranog. And when we do a tour of Magdranog, and I hope we will do that within the next month or two, maybe 3 months, we will talk a little bit about what's going on there. So the armies of the Arachnoids swept south, and the disorganization of the Republic was exactly the problem, as Alexander mentioned. And there was much battle once they sort of reached the midpoint of the Vile Desolation. And this is why there's this place called the Fields of the Dead and the Fetid Pits. And we will talk about these in part 2. But in this period of time, the city of Covenant, which was a very large and substantial place in this area, which is now called the Vile Desolation, was ultimately sacked after a couple of attempts by the Arachnoids. And many of those people who survived that, who were able to escape beforehand, came south and entered the Republic. But many who did not escape that became the forces of Kalnavik. Yes, Alexander.
Yes. And understanding, knowing this war is essential to understanding the current political climate
Indeed.
and situation that the Vile Desolation and its neighbors find themselves in.
Yes, this is exactly right, Alexander, because there are whispers that Hernesh, who is the leader of Magdranog, actually believes that the Vile Desolation is the greater threat to his lands. And there are certain people in the Republic who also believe this. However, there are others in the Republic who vehemently oppose it. But
Well,
Alexander, they could be bought and paid for, yes.
well, of course. Well, we have to give them their credit. You know, we have to explain the situation.
Yeah, go ahead, please, jump in.
To the obvious, you know, to the normal observer, the Magdranog and the Republic are the clear players. They have much larger, clear, you know, noticeable armies. They are gearing up to go to war again. It's clear from, you know, spies and other observers that Magdranog is getting ready to invade. And they're receiving some pressure from Nordruka, as you've mentioned, that they need to resume their conquest.
The mandate of Rouge. Yes.
Or bad results will happen if they do not resume their conquest. So the Republic knows that threat is looming, and there are many people that probably not incorrectly believe that is the most immediate concern. But right now, no one is invading because they are all sort of tied in this stalemate where all of them know that whoever wins the war that is coming next will lose the one immediately after. They will be invaded by the party that was not involved in the war. So it is really unless the sides, you know, kind of team up to take out another one that they could succeed. So all of them are sort of scheming together on how they can use one another to accomplish their goals. So while yes, there are rumors that Hernesh believes that the Vile Desolation is the real threat, I am certain that there are also rumors that he is conspiring with them to bring destruction to the Republic, and the Republic conspires with the Vile Desolation. You know, they all know that you know, your enemy's enemy is your friend. However, in this case, they're also your enemy, as they will, you know, destroy you afterward. So it is truly a complicated situation.
Well, the marvelousness of the political tension, right? Because it is political, right? It is this three-headed dragon that neither of the other heads like each other, right? But there's a fourth head too, right? Because Nordruka is, as you said, putting pressure on Hernesh, and it could even be that they could get involved in this and perhaps going against Hernesh. Who knows, right? This is for your table, right? This is for you to dance and bring, because all of this tension makes for all manner of interesting activity in the halls of government in the Republic, right? In the council chambers where Lord Kalnovic speaks to his sires, the ones beneath him, yes, and in the war councils of Magdranog.
Exactly.
Oh, this Carrie, you put up some good stuff. We are
Indeed.
Part two. Go, cameraman. So in the 10 Years' War, so this is a locality in Magdranog, which I'm not going to go into deep, but I just wanted to give you a feel. Sort of there's a couple of areas in Magdranog that are kind of rugged and volcanic and interesting, and there is a place there called Kondazug, and this we will talk about much more. But there is a secret that lies there. Anyway, the 10 Years' War goes on, right? They're battling. They are destroying. Keep going, cameraman. You're doing great. The Orachanoids come forth, right? They are battling. People are dying. Thousands and thousands and thousands of people every year during the 10 Years' War. Keep going, cameraman. Yes, and they battle. And they die. Yes, keep going, cameraman.
And they keep battling. And the war goes on, and no ground is earned.
I got caught up with what you were talking about. We were dancing. I wanted to show these while we were talking, but I didn't want to interrupt you. So the war keeps going, right? And they are battling. All of this stuff keep going, and then they retreat, and that's fine. Stay there. And then they all. This is the retreat from
the Vile Desolation.
From the Vile Desolation. So, and then they die.
After they realized that the war could no longer be fought there.
Unwinnable.
So the scenescape that I did, that played at the beginning, is that
This is the Fields of the Dead.
Fields of the Dead.
Yes, but we have a better image of that, yes. And that's where the walkers walk. Keep going, Kimbermandy. But it is not just humans and dwarves and elves. It is goblins and arachnoids, right? It is skeletons. There are wights and wraiths and even death knights. All over the place, yes, Alexander. Ghosts,
Yes,
keep going. You
fearful
go.
specters and ghosts.
Goodness gracious, Cameramendi.
Great
You
hordes
did
of
not
ancient
stay. Hold on,
warriors
Alexander. I've
who
got to insult Cameramendi for a moment. You
rise
did not
again.
stay at a Holiday Inn last night, clearly. All right, continue on, Alexander.
Yes. They have great hosts of these undead.
Yes, look at, I mean, can you imagine, Alexander, you're a party, right? You've crossed the river, right? And you keep running into these packs of ghouls or walkers, right? And they just want to eat you.
Exactly. And then you pass another who waves at you as he carries his cart by, a couple corpses in the back tied down so they don't walk off, and he just, waves to you and says, "Good day," and keeps going.
Good day to you, my friends. And the guy in the back goes, "I'm not dead yet."
That's why he's in the cart.
All right, cameraman, let's do that. They'll leave the white on for you. Okay, That was very good. All right, so this is the last of the sections we will do today before we adjourn. And Cal Novick was this guy that I dreamed of a long time ago. And Alexander, and can I tell a little bit of this tale and then I'm let you go, Alexander?
Of course.
So Alexander and I talked about him, and AJ threw in some thoughts to me, and Marvelous Carey threw some thoughts out about this. And I'm not going to do it today, but there's an essay that I'm going to read again, which some of you have heard before, but it is marvelous. But Alexander said, you know what? I love this guy, Kellerwick. And he took this clay and this sort of form that I gave him and really, with some help of others, but he really made this character marvelous. And not only did he make him marvelous, go ahead, cameraman, let's go to the next slide. Past this, we don't need to talk about this. So Covenant is where Kalnovik's seat of power is. And one more, the cameraman. And this is the feel of the city of Covenant. And this is a place your characters can go. All right, one more. So Alexander said to me, I would like to have a portrait that makes me Count Open, which was marvelous. Go ahead, Alexander.
Yes. Well, you suggested a character, and you were like, well, you should write an in-character essay that's from a perspective that we can give you a character on. It should be a good guy, so he could be a good guy. And I was like, no, the essay must be from Kalnovic. It really gets across his point of view, his ideals, and his ethos, and it is essential that it was from him. But yes, no, it was a character that definitely came out, I think, very different than you had originally envisioned a bit, Kim. He's more idealistic.
He's got a lot of that stuff we talked about. He is marvelous. I just the point of view that you brought was really a nice addition. It was a great feel and again, I don't want to give it away because I want to read the essay.
Well, of course, yes. Well, he has some very, very specific ideals, and he believes in them very fervently. And the real horror with Kalnovic comes with how persuasive he is, how good his arguments are, and just how much sense they make. And when you really realize what he's talking about, it shows you how terrifying he is as a person.
Yes, and this is a wonderful nemesis, right, Alexander, for your high-level players.
Or an ally, depending on their opinion. Depending on who you're fighting, he could be an ally.
Well, that's what we did, right? That was the idea from the beginning. I wanted to be able to create factions that you could be a part of that faction if you wanted to, right? And that birthed the Fazud, and that birthed the Arachnoids being very different from sort of how they were portrayed for decades, all that stuff. So it's marvelous. One more
and
cameraman. Oh,
to
go ahead,
talk,
Alexander.
yeah, a little bit on, real quick, a little bit on Covenant. Covenant is a city that, was once ruined, and what you'll find there is an actually extremely orderly city life that is present. And while you will see ruins, everything has been repaired to the point of function, but there is almost no, you know, thought put to beauty or form. It is all function, efficiency, and design, and that is what you will really see when we get into Covenant.
Yes.
Go ahead.
So one of the things that I've dreamed about for a long time, and it came to sort of pass as we went through this process of creating this Vile Desolation, was a undead city that players could actually go to. That they would not just walk in there and have to fight. That they could actually be hired, perhaps, to do jobs and other things like that. And the lore of that just grew as we sort of talked about Covenant. And I really hope that next year, when we do the next Kickstarter, one of the foundational pieces of that Kickstarter is going to be the Dead City. Would that be fun, Alexander?
It'll be fantastic when we do that. I'll dress up as Kalnovic for that.
Yeah,
stream.
Alexander, you were supposed to.
Well, I mean, have you seen that picture? Like, it's a little outside of my wheelhouse.
Yeah,
right
no,
now.
we need our dear Carrie to be in town to make you up.
Exactly. There we go.
But you can see him, right? There he is standing, looking. No, go back at cameraman. Right there, standing, looking over his dominion, right? And incredibly powerful and passionate, right? Passionate, Alexander. Yes.
Yes. He has great passion and really, truly, in his own way, love for the people.
Yes.
That is a question, if you don't mind me answering. What
Yeah,
is the
go ahead.
currency
It's
of
good.
the Vile Desolation? Well, that's an interesting thing to ask about, really, because it depends on what sort of social class you're in. There are intelligent undead that do trade, and there are varying levels of
Yes.
intelligence. But gold bears really very little, use outside of trading with people who are outside of the Vile Desolation. Undead really have very little use for private property. So those intelligent undead, or those that really do have desire to consume or to cause pain or other things, you can indulge those desires as a form of currency. But past that, there is very little need for currency within the Vile Desolation internally.
Flesh is as important as anything, right?
Yes.
And this is what
it's
is
as close as you
the
get.
madness, right? This is the driving madness of so many of the undead. And that's one of Kalnovic's problems: is how do I get enough flesh to keep feeding them and not have them, all go wild. So.
And the way we took the Vile Desolation, or the undead, is we kind of changed. We took some liberty a little bit with them, and we made our undead very barren of what makes people human: emotion, to a degree, drive. I mean, some of the higher forms of undead, especially the Fazood, will have great ambition, great drive. However, they are stripped of their empathy and their love.
Yes.
It is a cold desire. They are sociopathic, even.
Now, to point out something,
Yeah.
obviously, at your table, if you want to have some kind of interesting miracle occur, and you want a Fazood to be able to feel, that's fine. But yes, generally they are devoid of feeling.
And there are those Fazood who do have glimmers of emotion, or even sometimes maintain their emotions. And there are other types of undead that can, keep their empathy and other things such as that. For example, I would say Kalnovic likely has substantial empathy.
Certainly.
Yeah, if you look at the way he speaks and what he has done, he's certainly an empathic individual. In a very twisted way, but still very empathic. But yes, no, it is that, and it is really there with the Fazood, or the sort of similar to vampires, liches, Suliches,
the Sow liches, right? Which are the lesser liches. All those.
Those are the kinds that are intelligent, and they are in the government, and or leaders of some form, or prominent members. But yes, they often are willingly becoming undead.
Yes.
They are the most likely ones to have willingly underwent the process of ascension, as they call it in the Vile Desolation.
Yes.
I just think, like, if you played a Fazood, I'm sorry if I'm saying that.
Fazood, yes.
Yeah. If you were playing that, it would be such a good character arc to find your emotions.
Oh yeah.
Yes,
absolutely.
and engage and learn what it is that brings back your emotions.
Yes.
Not just your negative ones, but your positive ones too.
Absolutely.
We're very excited about we have got some marvelous new races, and we're getting to run a little long, but we're almost done. Keep going, Kimberly. So what I wanted to give you a feel, we're not doing Covenant today, but I wanted to give you a feel a little bit in some imagery of what it might be like to be there, because it is not just completely dilapidated and everything's fallen down, though they don't care, as Alexander noted, they don't care as much for accoutrements, right? Typically, if something is nice, it's because Kalnovic has mandated it, and he wants it to look that way for visitors, for heads of state, for adventurers who are coming to do work for him. And Alexander, you're not just going to find just undead in the Vile Desolation, right?
No.
Especially in Covenant, right? Go ahead.
No, especially in Covenant. There is actually a famous university there within the Twisted Spire that offers scholarship to any willing to come and study. Any who wish to study at the university, and all manner of subjects are taught by some of the greatest teachers and subject masters ever to live. Teach there and can give you truly an unrivaled education free of charge. They will pay and cover all of your needs.
Yes, Kalnovic sent me an invitation. But
exactly. Even Alphinius Goo was offered a scholarship at the at the Twisted Spire.
I had that scholarship. Maybe I wouldn't have had all these student
Fire.
loans right now.
Exactly. No student loans. He even pays for your transportation to and from there. All of your housing. It's all taken care of. But it's not just students that are there. There are people who come there to work. There are people who live in there, and of course, there are slaves that live in there. And you
Never
will
mind.
see...
I'm not going nowhere where there are slaves.
Yeah, Kalnovic has no qualms
with that
about that kind
of
thing.
Well, yes, and the way he phrases it, which is really quite terrifying, is that it is their necessary due before they are given the gift of ascension. They're elevated to a state of greater being, but they need to give back to the community before they are allowed to enter it, and that's the service that they have to pay.
Rationalization.
For an adventure is
there
to free the slaves.
Oh, that'd be a little tough. You better be pretty high up there, Cameron.
What is a few years of misery and misfortune compared to an eternity of blissful undeath?
Blissful undeath.
Exactly. No hunger, no fear, all
Keep
gone.
Going. So there are places where it is a little creepy, right? The back alleys, right?
Of course. You might be mugged by some hungry
but
ghouls
not
if
for
you go
your
down
purse,
the wrong.
Right?
Yeah, not for your purse, but for your liver. So you should be careful.
That.
You'll want to pick up a travel advisory at the local guard post before you go wandering about.
Indeed. Keep going, cameraman. We are almost done, my friends. So the feel of the halls, the feel of the place is just a little more dim, a little darker, right?
And of course, this might even be an Under Covenant or Under
Covenant.
I
didn't want to bring it up too much, but
we'll just stick that name in there. We'll come back.
Part 2.
Yeah, we'll put that in part 2. We'll come back.
And of course, this was where I was going to pull out the "you want your liver" joke, but it was.
I know I stole it from you. I know.
That's all right. It's
great. The seedier members of Covenant. If you go down the wrong place.
Well, and remember, some of these, even though they have ghoulish appearances, actually have some semblance of intelligence. It's rarer, right? But they can you hear him? Yes.
Indeed.
I have a job for you, Alexander, and I will pay well for it. Yes.
Exactly. And yeah, there are. You'll see even things that you might assume to be skeletons, zombies, ghouls that have more intelligence than you would normally find. Indeed. And that's also a part of what happens when you rise in the Vile Desolation.
Yes. One more, Cameron Mendy. We are almost done.
Is there one more?
I think there's one more, isn't there?
Nope.
Well, then that is the end of part 1 of the marvelous tour of the Vile Desolation. Alexander, thank you. Appreciate you, my friend.
Thank you for having me on.
And to all the rest of you, happy Halloween. May all your adventures be sticky.
Hold on.
What?
Sorry. this is the information. for the
Oh, I
gentleman who
apologize.
just
I
did all of
apologize,
that.
cameraman. I was trying to be nice. You're
Yes.
exactly. I'll do that again in a moment.
Yes, do the ending. Okay, so if you have enjoyed the sounds, we will also bring them on for next week's stream as well. We'll have a new set of music for you from D20 Sounds. Please check out d20sounds.com. He has amazing soundscape music, as you've heard during this.
Yes, and thank you for letting us use them, Martin.
Absolutely.
All right, now can I say it, cameraman D?
Yes.
May all your adventures be sticky. No, Alexander, you say it. Go.
May all your adventures be sticky.
Yeah.
All right, have a good one. See you guys next week.